Welcome to the Businesstalk podcast. I am Deepak, joining you from India, where we explore ideas, insights, and research shaping the world of business. Today, we are joined by Dr. Martina Pasquini to discuss her research for purpose enterprises and hybrid organizational forms, implications for governance and strategy. In this conversation, we dwell into how organizations balance social purpose with strategic and economic goals. Dr. Martina is an associate professor of strategy at IE University, where her research explores the intersection of strategy, innovation, and entrepreneurship, with a particular focus on how demand, users, and community shape organizational value. A PhD holder in business administration and management from Bocconi University, she is deeply interested in for-purpose enterprises and firms that actively engage with communities to create social impact. Her research on strategies for shared value creation has earned her prestigious grants from the European Union's Marie Curie program, the Spanish Ministry of Science and Innovation, and FUNCAS. Currently, her work examines identity-based strategies, pro-social investments, and the role of social and sustainable intellectual property rights in fostering differentiation and performance. She also investigates purpose-driven businesses, including B corporations. At IE University, Dr. Pasquini teaches courses in strategic management, innovation management and technology strategy, and research methods, and has previously taught entrepreneurship and innovation at leading European institutions. A regular contributor to major conferences such as Academy of Management, SMS, and Druid, her research has been published in top-tier journals, including Strategic Management Journal, Research Policy, and Journal of Business Venturing. Before academia, she has served as representative at large for the Corporate Strategy Division of the Strategic Management Society and currently holds the role of Global Representative for Europe in the STR Division of Academy of Management. She also sits on the executive board of the Case Center and the board of B Academics, where she chairs the events committee. It's time to dive right in. Let's give a big welcome to Dr. Martina Pasquini, our guest for today's podcast. Dr. Martina, we deeply appreciate your gracious acceptance of our invitation. It's an honor and privilege to host you today.
Deepak, thank you very much for having me here because I'm very delighted to have the chance to talk about for-purpose enterprises. That it's a topic that it's very close to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor, for listeners new to this area, how do you define for-purpose enterprises and what makes them distinct from traditional for-profit or non-profit organizations?
Okay, yes, let's try to define our boundaries, so to give some boundaries to this talk. And for-purpose enterprises are businesses that combine commercial engine with a clear social and environmental mission. Particularly in my work, I define for-purpose firm as a financially self-sustaining and for-profit organization that embed a social aim as one of the core of its objectives. So, in other words, this company pursue a double purpose: competitive performance and positive impact in tandem. What makes them distinct is really where the mission sits. In a for-purpose enterprise, the purpose is built into the value proposition, so what customers buy, the operating model, so how value is delivered, and often also the governance architecture, so how the decisions are made and checked. So for-purpose are not just philanthropic, so they don't just donate, but the mission, the social mission is a part of the strategy. So practical examples help here. Think for instance to Patagonia. Patagonia competes as a premium outdoor brand, but sustainability is embedded into product materials, supply chain standard, public commitment. Or another example, Warby Parker. So in its model, it links sale to access to vision care, making the social aim, so the social part, also very present and part of the story of the product. The product becomes a kind of symbol. So a nuance that listeners often find intuitive is that in many hybrid, the beneficiary the buyer is not a beneficiary, they do not coincide. A customer buy partly because the product carries social meaning, and hybridity shapes demand, not only internal governance. That can be a strength, and then we'll see early on, then it can become also a kind of trap and make the growth of this type of company more delicate if the social mission over time becomes diluted.
Dr. Martina, when a firm pursues both social and competitive objectives, what kind of internal tensions or structural drifts tend to emerge? And how do leaders typically experience this in practice?
Okay. Balancing social and commercial objective is rewarding, but rarely is frictionless. Hybrid organization carry two logics. A social logic, so mission, values, beneficiaries, and the commercial logic. Efficiency, margins, competition, typically of a for-profit. So leaders experience this trade-off as recurrent. What gets funded, what gets measured, and what gets deprioritized. In practice, internal tension show three places. The first, the resources allocation. So social investment can be harder to justify in a short time horizon. Second, identity and culture. Mission-oriented employees and commercially training employee may interpret the success differently, creating internal debate and tension. And third, the governance. Board and investor may disagree about time horizon and acceptable trade-off. A key insight, for instance, here in terms of research, is on how to scale social venture, because the drift sometimes it's not about bad intent, but it's just structural. As hybrid grows, they can become more dependent on funder, partner, standardized report. So resource dependence may shift attention from beneficiary and from the symbolists to resource providers. Bureaucratization can replace care with protocol, and the pressure to prove impact can lead to an overemphasis on what is easy countable rather than the meaningful transformation. Take one example that it's classical. Take the example of Teach for America, a US nonprofit education organization founded during the 90s. So its core idea was to address educational inequality by recruiting a talented university graduate to teach public school serving low-income or under-resourced community. But when they pursue scale, philanthropic founders push for more systemic and larger initiatives. The initiative was called the Teach with the mark, with the exclamative mark. And the effort of the company shifted the focus from serving students directly to targeting also teachers. features broadly. And this really confused a lot early supporters and risk distancing the organization from its original beneficiary focus. So this is why leaders often describe hybridity as a manageable but a fragile element. So the real challenge is not to eliminate this tension, but to design routines that keep it productive rather than destructive.
Professor, why has company social purpose become a critical element in organizational design and strategic decision making in recent years?
Yes, purpose recently has moved from more periphery to a central element. It's not just a peripheral concern, it becomes a real strategic and central element in the organizational design. And in my opinion, for three main reasons. First, stakeholders' expectations are intensified. Customers, employees, investors, regulators increasingly ask not only what firms claim, but whether these claims are credible and above all verifiable. And this shift the purpose from a slogan to some strategic capability where credibility influences trust, talent, and access to capital. Then the second element is because the purpose is tied to innovation and resilience. Many companies now treat environmental, social, and governance, so the ESG challenges such as climate change, inequality, health, not some just externality, but within like internal strategic constraint and opportunities. And when purpose integrated into core operation, it can drive innovation, for instance, energy efficiency or circular material, while also meeting stakeholder expectation. And third, a very important point is that the strategy conversation became more precise. Nowadays, it's no longer do more social impact, but it's where do we focus more the effort of social impact. And particularly research suggests that firms can benefit from social impact strategies that are coherent, distinctive, but that also the industry materiality, so the industry compliant constraint, in some way the freedom of creating their initiative. So there are sectors where many ESG dimension are financial material, and the cost of deviating from peers can be very high. A concrete illustration here can be like the one back to 2010, so the BP Deepwater Horizon disaster that can suddenly raise the perceived materiality of certain social responsible categories like emission, resource use, worker safety, community impact, pushing firm in one sector to converge rather than differentiate. So to create a kind of shared compliance. So if you want to sum up, we can say that nowadays purpose matters more because credibility is priced, stakeholder scrutiny is higher, and firms face real strategic choices about how to position and invest.
Professor, could you share an example of a for-purpose enterprise that has struggled with balancing its social mission and its market competitiveness and what that tension looked like over time?
Okay, so let's put in this way. One useful example category is the mission-driven businesses whose advantage partly comes from identity-based demand. So customers buy because the product symbolize a social value. And this mechanism create strong loyalty, willingness to pay, especially early on. About this evidence, research also show that if at the beginning this tight identity-based mechanism between customers and company can be strong, can lead over time to what we can call growth paradox for a social business hybrid. Hybrid that wants to scale. So, because as the firms expand to more heterogeneous customers group, they this heterogeneity that initially are not the, let's say, the authentic customer that align with the value of the company, they can trigger a negative demand side externality. So, in plain terms, scaling can dilute the emission signal that attracted early customers, reducing willingness to pay and inviting skepticism. A concrete example here and a concrete illustration is the case of Fearless Chocolate, a B Corp that built a value-based relationship with customers based on what? On value of fair trade, of fair wages, which at the beginning they were the driver of the premium price of these chocolate bars. But later, when it was the moment to expand, the firm's price point was not competitive outside the initial core segment, align with the same belief of the company. And so the model was difficult to scale in the same niche. And so the company really struggled. There are a lot of stream of research that discuss this strategic response. So firm may attempt growth through segmentation, brand extension, or very successful through diversification, which can preserve in some way element of social identity. Another example, but with a different twist, is the company Plum Organics, that it was acquired by a large incumbent, Campbell Soup, while continuing with a standalone business. And how it managed to grow, being acquired, and be a standalone business. Okay, he got the status of public benefit corporation, and so like the mission was in some way preserved by the dilution of the mass market and the growth trap. So this show that one way is a hybrid that tries to scale while protected identity and governance commitment. And another path might be different. Some mission-led brand broaden the customer base by leaning more on product quality and brand awareness than the original symbolic mission, but shifting toward a more competitive and conventional logic. So the broader lesson for leaders here is that tensions unfold over time. Early identity-based advantage can become scaling constraint over time unless strategy and governance anticipate them.
Dr. Martina, your work discusses ad hoc business models that foster synergies between social impact and economic performance. What design principles or governance mechanisms seem most effective in actually creating those synergies?
Okay, let's start with an optimistic finding in this field, saying that synergy is possible. But it usually doesn't happen by accident. It has to be designed. So I like to summarize synergy design with three words: focus, credibility, and coordination. So first, regarding the focus, align purpose with capability and with what is material in your industry is important. In this respect, research suggests that social responsible strategies can create more value when they are coherent and distinctive, but also that a firm's ability to be unique is constrained when many CSR categories are financially material to the industry. So practically this means that you must meet the materiality base, so the compliancy base, but also choosing a few areas where the firm can be credible and at the same time excellent. So a concrete illustration of this materiality baseline idea is the example that I provided before about the BP Deepwater Horizon spill. And if we want to have, so in that case, let's say that all firms in the same industry start to reduce their uniqueness to be always more compliant to some category of their materiality that after the disaster were continuously scrutinized. But this convergence of compliance is not enough to also reach competition. Then a company also must choose a few areas that are more distinctive. So an example like Schneider Electric is a good intuitive example because the sustainability of this company is tightly linked to its core capability, so energy management and efficiency, rather than trying to lead to every and very broad social issue at once. The second element, as I told you, is the credibility. Stakeholders infer sincerity from the type of actions and not only slogan or marketing. So, for instance, in corporate philanthropy, generous giving, so big visible commitment, or innovative giving, so hands-on long-term program built for some particular type of recipient are both perceived as more substantive than symbolic action. And innovative giving can be especially powerful because it's harder to fake. A concrete example of innovative giving is when a firm does more than write check and instead it builds capability. So think for instance a model like Salesforce 111 approach, so donating a portion of product equity and employee and employee, or like other type of innovative giving like a skill-based program where employees helps non-profit or school to create a sense of helping the community. So these are programs that are verifiable and they are also credible. And the third element is the coordinations. So many failures come from internal decoupling. Marketing claim move faster than operations. So like sometimes synergy is more likely when firm put cross-functional routine in places, share KPI, data standard, clear sign-off. So like when sustainability, legal, finance, and operation are totally aligned.
Professor, how do incentive schemes and governance structures need to change in hybrid organizations to prevent social goals from being sidelined when financial pressures increase?
Okay, yes, incentive and governance are key when we talk about tension and hybrid. When financial pressure rises, social goals are at risk of being sidelined unless purpose is embedded in incentive and governance. So here, the especially the greenwashing literature, offer a very practical lesson. Misleading claims are not always deliberate deception. They can be driven by a regulatory environment, strong market demand for green and organizational level drivers such as incentive structure, ethical climate, weak communication between marketing, public relation, product development or suppliers. The governance response should be equally practical by balancing incentive, verifying routine, and protective mission governance. So first, incentives are balanced by rewarding both financial performance and mission outcomes. So leaders don't optimize only what is paid. Second, the verification routine. Management must define who signal off the ESG claims, which evidence is required, and how claims are audited. And final, mission protected governance, including mission expert at board level, stakeholder advisor counseling, or where relevant legal form of certification. All of these elements increase accountability. We can distinguish, and we can take this also from existing research, firm level and product level greenwashing. At firm level, we can point the GE Eco-Imagination campaign, publishing, highlighting environmental leadership, while at the same time also lobbying again stricter and cleaner clean air EPA requirement. Differently at product level, we can describe LG refrigerator labeled as Energy Star, where if you go into detail, some models later were found to have some incorrect energy use information, and then they didn't actually meet the efficiency standard. So which is the broader lessons here? The broader lesson isn't about specific company, okay? It's the mechanism. When the communication runs ahead of verifiable operational reality, the gap gets exposed, and then the credibility of the company collapses. Therefore, communication should be designed for credibility, and this is very important because stakeholders respond better to specific verifiable claim and to program that have substantive signal, effort, long-term action rather than broad aspirational slogans.
Professor, academicians distinguish between an instrumental strategic economic stream and an injective social behavioral stream. How do these two perspectives lead to different prescriptions for strategy and organization design in for-purpose firms?
This is a more theoretical question. Thanks for asking because it's important um, to understand on how we can delve deeper in the study of social business hybrid. So researchers tend to approach for purpose firm from two broad angles. Okay, so it's an epistemic approach. I try to simplify here. On the one hand, we have the instrumental, strategic, and economic stream that ask when does doing good also help a company to do well? And it focuses on stakeholders, on reputation, differentiation, competitive advantage. And useful recent refinements is the idea of social impact uniqueness, CSR uniqueness. Firms can create value when their social profile is coherent, distinctive, but also different. Yet, the industry materiality, so the industry compliance, can constrain how different firm can be without raising any risk. Differently, on the other hand, the injunctive social behavior stream ask a different question. Ask, how does the mission survive when it's costly? And so it focuses more on the internal tension, on the identity, on the practical work of maintaining this dual commitment under pressure, especially as we have mentioned before, especially during growth and scaling phases. So in a real organization, you need both. So they are two lenses, but you need both. Leader should actively seek synergies where possible, so the instrumental logic, but also build guardrail for when synergies are hard, so the injunct logic, especially during crisis and scaling phases.
Professor, in the instrumental strategic economic view, stakeholder theory and CSR-driven identity processes play a central role. How do these ideas reshape product strategy and the evolving power of the chief sustainability officer inside the firm?
Um, Stakeholder theory broadens the definition of value creation. Firms create value not only for shareholders, but across the stakeholder, customers, employee, community, so the environment. So in practice, that reshapes product strategy. Products increasingly carry ethical attributes, safety, sustainability, inclusiveness, more values, because stakeholders also demand them. This social impact driven identity adds another layer. Stakeholders can identify with the firm's value, and this identification can translate into loyalty and willingness to pay and also effort. But this also raises the stake. Once you compete partly on value, um, every type of strategy inconsistencies become very expensive. And this is where the chief sustainability officer or an equivalent become strategically important. In the strongest case, the CSO is not a reporter or a communicator, is a portfolio architect or an internal integrator that must ensure coverage of the material of the ESG issues in the sector. You must choose few area where the firm must be more credible and can differentiate the sustainability focus. And finally, I must have also an insider look and build cross-functional coordination so that, as we said, the marketing claims are also aligned with the everyday operational reality. So, a practical example here, in my opinion, is the FedEx climate strategy. If you take the carbonization seriously, it's not just a communication project. It changes fleet investment, electric delivery vans. It changes aviation fuel strategy, so sustainable aviation fuel and efficiency. It changes facility operation, so renewable energy management in hubs, and also the customer offerings, option, reporting for lower carbon shipping. So in these settings, the CSO role is to make whole system very coherent. So the target, the plan, the operational change, the external claims, all line up and particularly verifiable. And so the CSO has the task to make the company coherent but also verifiable with data and also audited by the external stakeholders.
Professor, the injective social behavioral streams looks closely at intrinsic motivation and doing good. What have you learned about designing HR systems and organizational cultures that keep those pro-social motivations alive under strong economic constraints?
People side, in my opinion, is where the purpose becomes highly concrete because purpose can operate as a strategic human capital affecting attraction, motivation, and talent retention. There are a lot of evidence connecting strategic human capital and business for purpose or social impact strategy. So, generally, evidence shows that employee participation in corporate social initiative can be associated with improved retention of talent. And the mechanism is not only a mechanism of sorting, so like we select and we select people that are aligned with certain type of value, but also as a potential treatment effect. Participation can increase identification, meaning, perceive justice in the workplace. And at the same time, the design matters. So, a very long placement or culturally distant location can create reintegration and network challenges that mute this benefit. Then, another type and second type of cluster of evidence comes from some field experiment showing that social responsibility signals from company can reduce the wages that workers require, especially among the high performance. Okay, some studies show that worker submitted 40 around 40% lower wage bid for the same job after learning that the employer was a social responsible company. And And one interpretation of this is signaling. Social impact and social responsible strategy can indicate trustworthiness and fair treatment also for the internal human capital. And third group of evidence shows that employee motives are often mixed. So, meaning that research finds that employees value social initiative for pro-social reason and for private benefit, for skill development, stretching role, leadership under constraint, and career capital. When participation involves salary sacrifice, private benefit become even more salient. We can observe this type of logic in a few large companies, especially companies skill-based, and there are evidence of company skill-based and cross with skill-based and cross-sector initiatives. Okay.
Yeah.
You can see this logic in many large company, skills-based volunteering and cross-sector initiatives. They are framed as impact, but they are also framed as leadership and capability development. Human resource implication is practical. Treat purpose initiatives as design talent product, but make the social impact real. And the design of employee experience must be a kind of learning, recognition, reintegration, and career pathway. So the initiatives can build capability rather than feeling like a detour.
Professor, I'd like to conclude this episode with one last question. Social entrepreneurship in developing country context is one of the settings you reference. What does this context reveal about hybrid organizing, identity-based strategies, and the conditions under which for-purpose enterprises can sustain both mission and performance over time?
Emerging market contexts make hybridity very visible because constraints are sharper. Beneficiary may have limited ability to pay, institution may be weaker, scaling often requires more complex stakeholders ecosystems. So, central lessons from research on scaling social venture is that growth can pull attention away from beneficiary towards resource providers. It can also bureaucratize care and push leaders to overemphasize metric at the expenses of real beneficiary experience. To sustain mission under scale, typically scholars propose building organizational care, systematizing the capacity to listen to diverse stakeholders, ensuring beneficiary are represented in governance, creating practices that keep attention on those whose voices are typically softest. So, practical example, in emerging market, there are some typical example of including pay-as-you-go, solar or micro-franchising model that expand access while sustaining revenue. Social healthcare innovation that scale affordable treatment models are for instance, other examples. But the core point is Scaling must not be only operation, it must be ethical and governance related. If you scale without preserving the beneficiary voice, the credibility also drop and the drift is likely to push back. Um, Finally, last message, the growth paradox for identity-based hybrid can be sharper, particularly in this context. When revenue relies on value-driven customers or partners, leaders may need segmentation or diversification to protect their legitimacy while expanding the total reach.
Thank you so much, Dr. Martina, for sharing your insights and taking the time to be with us today. Your perspectives on for purpose enterprises, governance, and strategy have given us a lot to reflect on and will certainly inspire our audience to think differently about how organizations can create both social and competitive value. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Deepak. If I can conclude, I want to remark that nowadays purpose is not only an aspiration, but it's a real organizational design problems that requires a lot of care and effort. And it must be really driven by truthful values and belief.
Very nice. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you to you.